noise. All right. Let's take our dear first. Master of all worlds, highest power, merciful parent of compassion. In your presence, eternal one, source of strength for us, as you have been for our ancestors. We very humbly acknowledge you. What is our strength? What is our life that you have done such great kindness to us? Therefore, we place our appeals before you,
so that you may forgive.
So that you may forgive and absolve us of all our faults and failings, that our faults never become barriers between us and you. It may be your desire to prepare our hearts to feel awe and love for you. May you listen to these words of ours. May you open our encumbered hearts through the mysteries of your Torah. May this our study be a pleasure
before your throne of glory, like sweet incense. May you
shower
down upon us the light of our souls,
in all the ways
by which we define ourselves. May the sparks of
your holy servants,
through whom you have revealed these
who have revealed these words to the world, shine and sparkle. May their merit, their ancestors' merit, the merit of their
Torah,
their innocence
and their holiness
stand for us, to merit, prevent us from stumbling when we study these words. In their merit, may our eyes be illumined by what we study. In the saying
of the sweet singer of Israel, open
my eyes that I may gaze into wonders of your Torah. The words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. For it is the eternal who grants wisdom, from his mouth knowledge and understanding. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na na na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Na 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 na. Oh na na na. Oh na 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 na. Oh no no no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Evening. On page 399. 399. So we're in the middle of the discussion of Jacob taking his leave from Lavan. And we're about to get into the discussion that the Zohar offers for understanding a very weird and very hard to sort out scene in the Torah, where Jacob makes a deal with Lavan to set up his salary, so to speak, his compensation for all of the years that Jacob had worked for Lavan and had never been paid. And now he's going to get paid, but they make this arrangement that he only will get paid by getting the second, grade B sheep, the ones that aren't as nice as the top of the line, all white and beautiful and furry. It's not furry. What do you call it? Well, fuzzy. What's a woolly?
Fleecy.
Fleecy, right? Fleecy. So except that Lavan fleeces Jacob. So then Jacob sort of counter fleeces Lavan, and he does this weird thing where he takes these. He separates his flock from Lavan's flock, and he's only going to get the spotted and the striped sheep. And he does it. He increases that number of sheep by doing some kind of trick of peeling the bark off of these sticks, these branches. And when the sheep look at these peeled off branches, when they then go into heat, they end up conceiving striped and spotted sheep. Don't try it at home. It doesn't seem to really work, but it worked in the Torah. So the Zohar is going to try to make some sense of how this ended up playing out. What is the significance of this seemingly what can I say? Mundane, to put it mildly, scenario. Craig, how you doing? On one foot.
Metza.
Oh, well, I hope you feel better and better.
Thank you.
All right, so we're up to the middle of page 399. That day, I wonder if there's anybody among us who wants to read. Beryl, look at that. Go ahead.
That day he removed the streaked and spotted he-goats. Rabbi Elazar opened. Yud-He Vav-He, who may abide in your tent? Who may dwell on your holy mountain? He who walks blamelessly and does what is righteous. We and the companions have already established this. He who walks tamim, blamelessly, Abraham, who, when he was circumcised, was called tamim, and does what is righteous, Isaac, and speaks the truth, Jacob. Surely Jacob cleaved to truth. If so, then why did he act this way with Laban?
Okay, so this is, we had a similar question before, and we've had questions again. Jacob keeps on having these questions asked of him. He is labeled by the Zohar again and again and again, the paragon of truth, right? Titen chesed Abraham, emet li Yaakov, chesed Abraham, right? Emet li Yaakov, chesed Abraham. So Jacob's understood to be devoted and exemplifying truth. And yet he's the tricky guy, right? He's the deceiver. He deceives his father. He deceives his brother. Here he's working in a kind of a sneaky, underhanded way to try to augment his salary by artificial means. So the Zohar is asking, how do we square this with our concept that Jacob is the man of truth? So before we have that, we just have the verse from Psalms, and who is the one who can be God's neighbor or God's roommate, even abiding in God's tent? And the answer is, if they have one of these three qualities. And then what we do is we divide up the qualities, each one to one of the patriarchs. So Abraham is considered the one who is perfect, Tamim, because he's the first one who engaged in Brit Milah at God's command. So that perfected him as a human being and showed his perfect faith in God. So he's perfect. He's Tamim. Ufoel Tzedek, where is Tzedek, the person who does righteousness? So that's Isaac. Okay, so Isaac went along with his father to be offered as a sacrifice on Mount Moriah. So he's righteous. And then finally, V'dover emet, and the person who always speaks the truth, that's Jacob. Hello, how could this be Jacob? Okay, so here we have it again. We've tried to reconcile this before in a number of ways. And now we have this situation, and this is the question. It seems that he's not being truthful and upfront. He seems like he's being underhanded. So how could we understand that what Jacob is exactly doing? Okay, before we get there, just let's read 640 for the whole verse.
That day, he removed the streaked and spotted he-goats. The verse continues. And all the speckled and spotted she-goats, every one that had white on it, and every dark-colored lamb, and handed them over to his sons. Laban slyly removes all of the unusually colored animals that Jacob sought for his wages.
Okay, so in other words, this is upfront. Laban says to Jacob, you can have all of the spotted and all of the, the ones that aren't fully completely white. You can have them, but then he knows a little bit about animal husbandry, and he knows a little bit about genetics. So what he does is to maximize his own take and to minimize how many sheep Jacob will be able to get. He takes away from Jacob's flock, all of the sheep that actually seem to be genetically predisposed to spotting and striping. So he's only going to have these white colored sheep. So the striping and the spotting seems to be recessive, or however you say it. So he's going to get less and less because he only has the other kind of sheep. But this is what Laban gives to him, and Jacob agrees. So now what is Jacob doing? Then he turns around and he does that trick. So what's the answer? Okay, so let's go to the answer. Because Jacob
was examining the hour of his zodiacal constellation, for one is permitted to examine his hour before returning to his country. If his constellation rises in accord with his undertaking, fine. If not, he should not take a step until it ascends favorably.
Okay, so let's read 646 on that.
Jacob was examining the hour of his zodiacal, doesn't sound right, constellation. If his attempt proved successful, this would signify astrological confirmation that the time was propitious for him to set out on his journey. Zodiacal constellation renders
Mazala.
Constellation, planet, planetary influence, destiny, guardian angel.
Okay, etc., etc. So we've had this before a little bit about Mazala, and Mazala is also the flow of divine energies that come into the world. So the way the Zohar now is beginning to try to exonerate Jacob is that Jacob is not trying to pull the wool over. Hey, what about, hey, thank you, Craig. Pull the wool over Lavan's eyes, but he's simply testing the waters for whether it's the right time for him to leave. And what he wants to see is God with him to be able to have this exceptional good fortune, so to speak, the mazal. But like, again, the mazal, as we've had before, mazal is God pouring out some extra good fortune to him. Is God telling him that it's time to go? Or does he still have to bide his time? Which, of course, he's chomping at the bit. He's a little bit nervous about this because there's just so much time that he has left. Because Rachel, remember, is pregnant with her second child. And he knows that that is like the deadline. He's got to make it back into the promised land by that time. How much longer can he hold off leaving? And he wants to see whether God is telling him to leave or not. So he's not trying to do ill-gotten gains. He's not trying to cheat Lavan out of his sheep. He's trying to see whether God will make nature, behave in a certain way as a signal to him. I'm with you. Look, I'm changing the course of nature a little bit to show you that I want you to to be with me, and let's go. So this is a whole new idea. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, where are we?
We're on 400, fourth line. Come and see.
Come and see what is written. Let my honesty testify for me on a future day.
Okay, so in other words, Jacob himself says, I have nothing to hide. Right? This is Jacob's, these are Jacob's words. And look at the note 647.
Let my honesty testify for me on a future day. The verse continues. When you came to check on my wages.
When you come, on a future day when you will come.
The verse continues. When you come to check on my wages, any goat in my possession that is not speckled or spotted, or any lamb that is not dark colored, will be considered stolen.
Okay, so he's putting himself to the test. He's telling Lavan, you're going to be able to check me out. I'm not going to be hiding anything. This is all going to be done above board, very honestly. So now the Zohar tries to explain this verse. For he didn't try.
Where am I?
Back to the text.
I know, I'm looking for it. 647. Where are you? 648. For he didn't try to obtain something from him for nothing. Rather, in total honesty and perfect intention. Furthermore, he obtained Laban's permission. Concerning this is written, I have divined that Yud-He Vav-He has blessed me because of you.
This is Lavan speaking, and Lavan admits, he says, I know that you've actually been an advantage for me. having you around has actually been good for me. I get it. I know that God has been good to me just because of you. And I agree to everything that we're arranging now. So this is Lavan, entering with his eyes wide open into this deal, and nobody's hiding anything from anybody. Furthermore, we have this idea that he has nichashti. I have divined, that I have discerned by my own magical or divination kinds of practices. I have figured out that actually God is being nice to me because of you. Okay, how many types?
How many types of sorcery Laban employed? Examining his zodiacal constellation on account of Jacob, he discovered every month in his flock 100 extra sheep, 100 lambs, 100 goats, all because of Jacob.
Right, so he has this tremendous increase in his holdings. His flocks are proliferating like crazy. And when he looks into the astrological, magical kinds of lenses that he uses to understand why this is happening, it shows him that it's all because of Jacob. So he gets it. He knows that he's getting unforeseen and unpredictable. It wasn't something that could have been foretold ahead of time. The kind of increase in his sheep is not natural, but he understands exactly that it's coming not from his own magic or not from his own talents or his own work. He knows that it's all accruing to him thanks to Jacob. And it's 100 times extra, right? 100 sheep, 100 lambs more every month. Okay, and Rabbi Abba now gets carried away even more. Oh, are you kidding? 100? Feh. Rabbi Abba said,
1,000 extra sheep, 1,000 lambs, 1,000 goats. Jacob brought him every single month, as is written, for the little you had before I came has expanded abundantly, and Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh has blessed you wherever I set foot. Now blessing from above is never less than 1,000 of every single species. Of sheep, 1,000 appeared. Of lambs, 1,000 appeared. Of goats, 1,000 appeared. Upon whatever supernal blessing settles, never less than 1,000. So eventually, on account of Jacob, Laban attained vast wealth.
okay, so Rabbi Abba goes, much further and says, "Are you kidding? 100? That's nothing. 1,000, right? Which is 10 hundreds. What's 100? 100 is 10 tens. So he goes 10 tens, 1,000 of everything." The note, points out that 10 is an important number because 10 is the total array of all of God's various aspects of energy. So each of God's 10 aspects of energy multiplied by 10 and by 10 again. In other words, it's constantly, endlessly multiplying upon itself, God's goodness. And therefore, when Jacob was this good luck charm, so to speak, for Lavan, he was making so much of a profit over and over and over above anything that you could possibly imagine. So this is supernal blessing thanks to Jacob, right? Jacob is the man of God, and God's presence therefore impacts Lavan himself. So before we go any further, anybody have any comments on this? Anybody have any observations? Beryl.
I have a question.
Okay.
So sorcery is frowned upon and so many things like that. Why is the zodiacal investigation acceptable?
So yeah, good question. So Larry, you wanted to say something?
No, I know just a little bit, which is I think at the time that the Zohar was composed, astrology was considered at least by some, to be a science, not what we would think of it as, let's say, a superstition. Like I know that the Ibn Ezra held by astrology. I think the Rambam cast aspersions on it, maybe because he was, like he actually engaged in inductive reasoning as a doctor. But many people consider astrology to be scientific, so I don't know that it's exactly in the same category as sorcery. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, so all of that is valid. That's important. The magic is a broad term, and it can be, applied to so many different kinds of thoughts and practices. So when the Torah says don't go to a magician, don't engage in magic, don't even let a magician stay alive, they're clearly expressing some sort of displeasure with engaging in magics. That doesn't sound like they like it. The question is why. So Rambam says that there are two parts to it. The main part of it is because it's nonsense. It's all junk science, right? False facts. So it's first of all betraying, our commitment to try to pursue the truth. The truth is God's seal, right? Chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. Jacob is the one who is assigned emet because Jacob is the culmination of the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, then Jacob. We had before. Jacob is the best of the best. Jacob takes the best of Abraham and the best of Isaac together and combines them into the perfect mix. And that's the truth. So truth is a highly valued concept. And if you believe that any of this stuff is false, then leading people into that kind of false concepts is really awful. So that's the Rambam. Number two, where people can I'll go. The people that disagree with the Rambam, let's say Ibn Ezra, but even Ramban, and in general the Kabbalistic community. The Kabbalistic community believed that there was a lot of validity to magic. Now, Larry was trying to make a distinction between astrology and magic. So it's like a wide, dispersed kind of field. Is it reading tea leaves, or is it saying some kind of mumbo jumbo? Is it burning the tail of a black cat, or is it seeing auguries that you determine from looking at things and the stars and so on? There's so many different variations of what is in the broad field of magic, so it's impossible to generalize too much. But some of these things were considered real. Even demons are real, right? So the idea of appealing to black magic, where you're using bad forces to and you're trying to actually get them to do what you what I'm glad my black cat didn't hit you. Didn't hear you. Okay, say that. You're right.
You're talking about burning her tail.
Well, you take out just a snip off of just a few hairs. She doesn't know. She doesn't feel it. But anyway, so there's whatever it is, some of these things are considered to be real, and the Rambam says the reason you shouldn't do any of this stuff is because it's not real. The Kabbalists say the reasons you shouldn't do it is because it is real. It's real, and it's playing with fire. It's real, and it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to deal with magic. It's too dangerous to deal with all these dark forces that are out there. And now where the common ground is between Rambam and the Kabbalists is that in either way, you're taking your eye away from God. You're taking your eye away from the real source of all that there is and the real force that determines what's happening. So that's why you have a note in in the 646. According at the end, the last paragraph in the 646 note. You see that according to the Zohar?
According to the Zohar, stars influence the world, but are themselves messengers of God. Okay, that clarified it.
In other words, God is ultimately in control. You can't think of these other forces as having a separate. There you go. Hi, I didn't mean anything bad. It's okay. So God is ultimately in control, and therefore the idea of also using magic to manipulate reality is what's considered to be a violation of trusting in God. And that's part, again, so your question, so what's Jacob actually doing? So this is where the Zohar wants to walk this line of saying he wants to know whether God will allow these strange forces to work in his favor. That's the Zohar's kind of, trying to have it both ways a little bit. So, right. Now what we have here, though, we stopped at this point, because what we have is we have a kind of a face-off between Lavan and Jacob, and both are appealing to some kind of esoteric, astrological crystal ball kind of gazing. And it turns out not so much to change reality as to understand reality, right? As to understand why is this happening. And Lavan himself is convinced that this over-the-top increase in his flocks is coming from God, thanks to Jacob, right? So that's what we had. So I want to ask a different kind of question. I want to ask a kind of an ethical question. Is that okay? Is it okay? Let's take Zohar's typology seriously, from the perspective of the Zohar. Lavan is a bad guy. So even if Jacob is a good guy, the good guy Jacob, by dwelling in Lavan's house, ends up giving this bad guy so much power and wealth and success. Is that the way things should be? I mean, isn't that a kind of it's a collaboration with evil. Lavan is bad.
Rabbi?
Yeah. Rich.
You've had before that one way to deal with evil is to distract it. Throw it a bone.
Right. Well, a bone is not 1,000 bones.
Well, throw it,
See that
I'm not sure the distinction.
Well, it's a distinction of quantity for sure, and sometimes enough quantity makes a qualitative distinction. Let's go back to what you were saying though.
Whatever it takes to distract.
So distracting evil is a strategy that the Zohar understands can be brought into effect when we want to accomplish something good. Right. So when we want to accomplish something good, and evil is lurking right there in the shadows, or even actually out in front, and evil can stop the good thing from happening, then we throw evil a bone, so that evil will then go chew on the bone and not pay attention, so that we can accomplish the good thing. So for instance, Yom Kippur, we want to get God to forgive us. We want to get God to reconcile with us again and be at one with us. So we know we've got sins. We know that God has to overcome justice per se and not pay us back for our sins. God has to forgive us. Well, God will never forgive us if the evil advocate keeps on putting the sins in front of God and demanding justice, right? Which is what the evil one does, right? That's I wrote a little bit about this in Torah Sparks this week. In the name of justice, we basically excuse a lot of cruelty and vindictiveness. So the Satan, right? The evil advocate. Look at that. All of the black fur got completely changed because of being freaked out by what I was saying before.
No, he was just jealous.
Yeah. So what do? What we do is we send the Seir Lazazel so that the Satan the evil advocate, will be so preoccupied with chowing down on the Seir Lazazel, the scapegoat, that they won't pay attention, and then we can sneak in and have a private audience with God, and then appeal to God's mercies without any a plaintiff's attorney raising any objections. So that's where we placate the evil one for the sake of being able to accomplish something good. Would we say that that's the same thing happening over here?
Well, maybe the distraction is necessary to allow Jacob to finish the creation of Kol Yisrael.
Right. So that's good. So I'm just trying to unpack it a little more, right? So for us to understand, there's this necessity for Jacob to bide his time and to develop the 12 tribes of Israel, in over the course of however long it's going to take him to have those children. And he needs to be safe and sound. So Lavan allows for that, good goal to be achieved. But in order to make that good goal possible, Lavan has to be placated. Lavan has to be paid off. So this is like protection money, right? This is the way that we get Lavan to be satisfied with having Jacob in his household for 20 years. So we could make something of an argument like that. Of course, I just want to highlight that it's an uncomfortable kind of arrangement. First of all, as I said before, the proportions could be a little bit questionable here. If Lavan didn't get 1,000 extra sheep every month, if he only got 100, you don't think he would have, would that not have satisfied his, his voraciousness? God only knows, right? Or God through Rabbi Abba only knows. But it's a good question. We deal with these kinds of questions in the world of politics, realpolitik, all the time. And right now, with our struggle of how to neutralize, a mass murderer, we have, recognized, some of us, that we've gotten ourselves compromised by how much we have been placating, this tyrant and this ogre, with the excuse that we need it, that it's important, and that it might even be better for us to be able to, placate the evil so that it doesn't stop us from benefiting for all the good things we want to do. It's a very, very fraught problem. The Zohar here is working overtime to try to put the best face on Jacob's behavior as it can, but I would still say that it's not like, oh wow, look at that, it's completely disposed of all objections and all questions and all qualms that we might have. I don't think it quite gets there, but as I said, it's setting up the idea that Jacob has a very formidable adversary that he's going to have to cope with, as we will see it coming up. Okay, and so we're at the bottom of 400, the last 3 lines.
When Jacob sought to obtain his payment, he found only 10 of every species. Yet even this he considered immense wealth. Look how little he took for himself from all that his virtue had provided to Laban. All that Jacob attained was by force, by taking those rods and placing them facing the flock.
Okay, so now we get a little bit of a different kind of argument on behalf of Jacob. The first argument that we had was that the rods, the sticks, they were just a test to find out whether God made, what had decided that it was time for him to move on. So now we're saying, no, it's more than that. If Lavan was left to his own devices, he would have completely starved Jacob, out of anything. Because Lavan we keep saying, wait, how could Jacob possibly do this? It's not on the up and up. Who's he dealing with? He's dealing with the greatest thief you can imagine, right? Lavan is completely, stealing from Jacob in every way. So now the argument is becoming instead, well, he's gotta fight with any weapon he can, because Lavan is in control, and Lavan is just completely dishonest. So he had to use the sticks to get the some kind of flock, because he needs the flock to go home. Okay, come and see.
Come and see how hard that perfect one, Jacob, toiled for Laban. It is written, he put a distance of 3 days between himself and Jacob. Even though Jacob brought him all that wealth, Laban didn't want Jacob's wages to be as agreed. Rather, he took 10 of this and 10 of that and gave it to him, saying, take these, and if they bear young, then just as you said, whatever they bear of that pattern will be your wages. As is said, you switched my wages to 10 moni.
10 times. You switched my wages 10 times.
10 min of this and 10 min of that. And similarly, your father has cheated me and switched my wages monim times, yet
10 monim, 10 times. So this is quoting from Jacob complaining about how Lavan had treated him. He complains to Lavan's face, and he also complains to Lavan's daughters. And what the Zohar reads is that when it says 10 times, 10 monim, it means 10 times of taking from, min, taking from. He took from me 10 times again. He would leave me with just the dregs of the dregs. He would leave me with 10 sheep. I would give him 1,000 sheep, and he would give me back, and he would say, okay, here's 10 sheep. Right? And he would take all the sheep that are supposed to be mine. So he constantly was cheating me of my just wages. Yet,
with these 10, he engaged in serving the Blessed Holy One who blessed him. Whatever Laban agreed to with Jacob, he went back on his word, seizing everything from Jacob until the Blessed Holy One felt compassion on him, wresting forcefully what was his.
okay. Okay. So the Zohar is very bitter, right? This is a text that is dripping with complaint. Look at how terrible Lavan treated Jacob. Look at how much he mistreated him, cheated him, was dishonest with him. So how do we read this if we want to read it in a kind of a context of the Jewish community of that time, in historically speaking, or the way we can imagine people who try to defend themselves when they've been accused of maybe not behaving in the most proper and correct way? How can we hear this kind of a defense right? Because that's what they're doing. They're feeling like Jacob needs to be defended. And the best defense here is an offense. So what's going on? Can we ever imagine somebody being attacked, accused of impropriety, of again, not abiding by the highest standards of the profession or the ethics that we would expect, and lashing out in some kind of way that might parallel this kind of a torrent of counter attack and that the Zohar is doing. Yeah, Beryl.
Isn't this how Pirkei Avot evolved in some of the sections? Because it's very specific very often on what you can take, how much you can increase, how much you can charge, what your percentages are.
Yeah, so there are, it's not Pirkei Avot, but it's other parts of the Talmud and the Mishnah that try to regulate economic dealings, commercial dealings between people, and try to keep things fair, right? So, but what I'm saying is, I think that we should imagine what's going on here in a kind of I didn't go through this recently, so it's a very broad kind of analogy. But imagine what happens with Shylock, right? Try to, if you can remember it. Shylock is very, what can I say? From this place of moral shock. Shylock, how could you be, who you are, and how could you demand what you've demanded and behave the way you've behaved? And part of when people, so some people just look at it that way and they go, look, here's this, either Shakespeare was an anti-Semite or he was playing to an anti-Semitic world. And of course, Shylock is portrayed as this evil monster who has no morals. But then there's been a counter reading, which is much more sympathetic to Shylock, and which says, no, he's not a moral monster, but he is a victim of a society that will never let him be moral, because they will never treat him fairly, the way Beryl is saying, for instance, that a fair set of laws would give everybody equal opportunity, an equal playing field for everybody, and then everybody can charge each other what they want, then everybody pays, and everybody is honest with each other. But what happens if the system is rigged? What happens if the system is rigged against you and you try to play by the system and you get screwed? And then you try to play by the system and you keep on getting messed over. And then when you try to somehow maybe do something that can extricate you from this vicious cycle of defeat, oh, look at this person. This person is all right, Larry, take care. Look at this person. I told you this person couldn't be trusted. I told you that this person, was of a low moral character or something like that. When actually, what's really the problem is the low moral character of the mass that's applying their power against that person. That's how I'm reading this.
Rabbi?
Zohar is working very, very hard to exonerate Jacob. It's with I read it with a tone of frustration, with a tone of exasperation. And because they're writing as Jews who are constantly struggling to survive and even thrive in a society that is always going to try to beat them down into a secondary position. And no matter how much they try to play by the rules will never be fairly applied to them. And then they're going to have to figure out how to get around it. there's a statement, Rich, I'll come back to you in a half a second. There's a statement by some English lord or philosopher, I don't remember who, as the classic conservative political defense of things is, what do you mean? Stealing a loaf of bread is not discriminatory. Punishing somebody for stealing a loaf of bread is not discriminatory. It applies to everyone. It applies to, Lord so-and-so. Lord so-and-so can't steal a loaf of bread. So why should we allow this poor person to steal a loaf of bread? Right? So there's a kind of an obliviousness about the unequal, the uneven playing field. That's the reality that the person is struggling with. Yeah, Rich.
Yeah, so it just strikes me that it's, it's a slippery slope of,
Absolutely.
Everybody blaming the victim. And whereas this, in the case of the loaf, with society, but so what do you do? Do you have no laws, or
Well,
if everybody has been victimized, then
right.
What?
So that I tried to say the answer real fast. It goes back to the Talmudic system. It's not that you don't have any laws. It's how about applying laws equally? How about not redlining, districts, against certain people? Let everybody who can afford it buy a house wherever they can buy it. That's the disingenuousness of it. It's not that laws shouldn't be abided by. It's not that laws shouldn't be respected. But on the other hand, laws should really be just. Laws should not be weapons of oppression.
But with respect to the person, but when the person steals the loaf of bread, does he get a break, or do you say, going forward?
The Torah is explicit and says that you shouldn't show favoritism to a rich person, and you shouldn't show favoritism to a poor person. Right? The Torah is very explicit. It's in the Kedoshim. That I'll read to you the verse in hopefully in a jiffy. Watch this. Okay. So this is in Kedoshim, which says to us that we should strive to be holy, right? I told you it's just a long jiffy. Here it is. Verse 15, chapter 19, verse 15 in Leviticus. Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat. Lo tisa pnei dal, v'lo tehedar pnei gadol. B'tzedek tishpot amitecha. So the first part is, don't do wrong when you apply justice, mishpat, fair judgment. Don't do avel. Right? Avel, iniquity, wrongness. What are the examples? Lo tisa pnei dal. Don't show favoritism to a poor person. Lo tehedar pnei gadol. And don't also show favoritism to a rich person, to a great, a person who's a higher social standing. B'tzedek tishpot amitecha. Rather, judge your fellow with righteousness. So apply righteousness to your judgment. So you're right. It doesn't mean, therefore, that there's no such thing as poor crime. And there's no such. Poor people are always innocent. Poor people are the beloved of God, and therefore they can do no wrong. It doesn't mean just to editorialize in another kind of controversial way. Poor people can be racist also, but there has to be justice applied. There has to be some kind of sense of how the law is being applied, when the law is being applied, where the law is being applied. Is the law being applied equally? If a poor person gets sentenced to jail, 10 times longer than a rich person for the very same crime, then there's something wrong going on here. Nobody's saying that it's okay to let the poor person just be their crime ignored, but how are the laws, being used? So, and then what, I hinted at a little bit at the end of the Torah Sparks is there's a, tremendous amount of work going on now to try to create a workable system of restorative justice as opposed to punitive justice. Restorative justice contains within that word restore two things. First of all, a victim should have their damages restored. If I stole the loaf of bread from the baker is entitled to have their loss restored. But at the same time, the criminal who may be suffering from all kinds of terrible, unjust situations, they need to be restored to health. They need to be restored to a decent ability to take care of themselves. So society needs to be restored. The imbalance needs to be taken back, and equality be restored. So there's a lot of serious work that goes on in terms of how you judge, the penal system and how you take care of things like that. We know we have a terrible track record of creating laws that work against helping people live in society. That's not what laws are for. Okay, back to here. What I was trying to say is in a historical context, but I don't want to, again, I don't want to poo-poo it. This is hard stuff. It's just that it's not going to get done if you don't recognize the issue. So, like the Torah says, poor person doesn't get off scot-free just because they're poor. They are also responsible. But what we have here is we have the reality of, as I'm claiming, the Jewish person who's being treated unfairly, and then when they do something which doesn't quite comport with what the outside culture prefers, then they get called on it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that what they're doing is wrong. And the Zohar is constantly claiming here that Jacob didn't do anything wrong. We have it in, let's say, with gender stuff, right? A woman gets mistreated and disrespected and so on. And then if she raises her voice, oh, look at you, you're not being civil. How are you? Why, shame on you for not participating in our civil society in a way that we all respect and honor, right? That's garbage. That's a very dishonest, imbalanced way of using a false application of morality and ethics and civility. So I think that's what's going on here with the Zohar. The Zohar knows this too well. It puts it back onto Jacob, but it knows it too well from its own 13th century and earlier experiences again and again. Just one more simple point, usury, right? Jews are hated because they're money lenders who charge interest. But guess what? They're forced to be money lenders who charge interest by the same authorities, so then afterwards pander to the masses and go, look at these terrible Jews, look at how immoral they are because they charge interest on money lending. They were made to do that. Right? This was part of the double whammy of Christian law. That we can't do it, but we'll get it's like the opposite of the Shabbos goy, right? We can't break the Shabbos, so we get the goy to break the Shabbos for us. At least when we had a Shabbos goy, we didn't demonize the Shabbos goy. When the Catholic Church said you're not allowed to charge interest and on loans, so therefore let's do the Jew who doesn't fall under our legal system. They did that, and they used the Jew for their financial gain, just like Lavan. And then they demonized the Jew for doing it. So that's the dishonesty that I'm talking about. All right. Rabbi Elazar, we have a little bit more time. Rabbi Elazar, middle of 401.
Rabbi Elazar said, all these verses come to reveal wisdom. For we have learned among supernal entities, some depend on action, some on speech, some on aspiration of the heart. Whoever wishes to draw down blessings by prayer with speech and aspiration, if not by prayer, they depend on action.
Okay, so here we have a kind of a little bit of a shift here, a change in direction in the Zohar. After talking about kind of social inequalities and you know, trying to get by with people who are trying to, you know, lie, steal, and cheat from you. Now Rabbi Elazar says, let's look at this from the perspective of leading a spiritual life. It's a completely moving it into another plane. And he says, whoever wishes to draw down blessings, how do you do it? There are three categories, three areas where you have to pay attention in order to try to you know, bring down blessings from above. Right? And what are they? Speech, aspirations of the heart, and action. So all of the commentators understand this to mean, what's speech? Speech is prayer. Aspirations of the heart, kavanah, intent, actually meaning what you're saying, or actually even just if you don't say the words out loud, the hopes and the prayers and the wishes that you're expressing in your heart, to devote them, direct them, you know, to God, right? To have a pure heart and to direct that heart to the Holy Blessed One. So speaking properly, speaking honestly, speaking words of prayer, speaking words of Torah. And then finally, sometimes you just have to do the right thing, right? And that's action. Okay, so of course, in a traditional context, perform the mitzvot. Do the things that you're supposed to you know, that you're commanded to do, right? Have the seder, eat the matzah, etc., etc. So these are three realms of human behavior, so to speak, that are both externalized and also internalized. Okay, so now what he's going to say is that we can see from Jacob how he applied that in his actions. Come and see.
Come and see perfect Jacob. Whatever he did in wisdom. It is written, he placed the rods that he had peeled in the channels in the watering troughs, all in wisdom, to draw down blessings from the bubbling spring of all to all those supernal rungs, his allotted share.
Okay, so what you have here is Rabbi Elazar says, we're not talking about sheep, and we're not talking about maximizing how many, you know, people, how many, you know, sheep are in your flock, or trying to get your back pay for 20 years of servitude to your evil employer. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is serving God, right? So this is, you know, the Zohar does this all the time. This is, I would say, a particularly big jump in the symbolic kinds of translations that are being made. So what we have is we have rods that are peeled and they're thrown into this water. So we will now see that the way Rabbi Elazar is going to unpack this is about relating to God in wisdom, because Jacob obviously has put a lot of thought into the action that he is executing, right? He's doing a very, you know, focused handiwork, but his handiwork is focused because the focus is the aspiration of the heart. He knows what he's trying to accomplish. What exactly is he trying to accomplish? He wants to draw down blessings from the bubbling spring of all to all those supernal rungs his allotted share. So Jacob, in other words, this is all about trying to create some kind of dynamic within God so that the blessings will flow. What is Jacob's allotted share? Jacob is identified with Tiferet, right? Jacob is identified with that core central hub where all the other divine centers of energy are actually coordinated and synthesized by that central hub, right? Most, obviously, the right side, love, giving, chesed, the left side, judiciousness, restraint, limitation, judgment, taking both of them, combining them as one in just the right kind of proportion so that the flow can be total, not one stopping the other, not one, canceling the other, but that's his allotted share, right? His share is to try to create that harmony of everything together. So let's look now, turn the page. 402.
The rods. What does rods mean? Rungs. Courts of justice.
Right, like spare the rod, spoil the child, right? The rod is the instrument of justice, which could also be, like we were talking about before, punishment, enforcing the law, right? That kind of like harsh approach. But then what does he do to those rods? He peels off the bark. He creates white spaces in the dark skin of the branches. So what does that mean? That he peeled?
That he peeled, stripping them of judgment.
Okay, so the whiteness is valenced as love, good, purity, all of that good stuff. The dark is valenced, is valued as being the rough, harsh qualities, and he has reduced those rough, harsh qualities, and he has given a different identity to those sticks. Those sticks, before he peeled them, were just rough, dark sticks, which therefore have a sense of hitting, banging, punishment. But by changing them, by making stripes in them, I mean, this is actually a kind of an interesting aesthetic insight. He's turned those sticks into artworks. He's turned those sticks into something very different. They now have a design. They now have an alternating quality to them that's not just stickness, right? And that whiteness, again, on the simplest level, the whiteness is the good stuff. So the good stuff has now been incorporated into the bad stuff. It's been domesticated. It's been tamed by all of that good stuff. Okay, now Barahatim.
Barahatim, in the channels corresponding to what is written, a king is bound. Barahatim, in the flowing tresses, for from that king blessings flow to all worlds.
Okay, so by doing that, he's gotten the waters going, right? He's got the flowing tresses moving along. He's got God's loving, blessing faculties moving forward. So this is it's not about the physical increase of his property. It's about trying to get God moving, trying to get God to pour forth more of God's goodness into a situation that until now has been under the thumb of a bad guy who, let's note, is ironically, paradoxically named Lavan,
Lavan, white.
white, the white one, right? So he's the guy, he's wearing the black hat. He shouldn't be Lavan, right? But he is called Lavan because that's part of his dishonesty. That's part of his whole, two-facedness. He's the prominent macher in the community, and nevertheless, he's really an insidious, thief and violent person. So, but on the outside, he's all Lavan, right? So here, Lavan is being defeated by stripes of real Lavan. Right? Okay. You know what? We're gonna stop here at the alternative. One more word before we get into 161B. What can I tell you? We're moving right along. So let's hold it here. And next week, we will meet, God willing. But something tells me that the following Thursday, we will not be meeting. Following Thursday is time for looking for the chametz, getting rid of the chametz, getting ready for Pesach. So next week will be our last session. And then the following Thursday is Yontif that night. So we won't meet on April 21st, but we'll be able to meet again, God willing, on April 28th. So next week, and then a little bit of a break. Okay, so I hope I'll remember next week to wish you all a sweet Pesach. Please remind me. Okay. Sei gesund.